neuroplasticity can be a good thing, and it can work in disservice of us too. In fact, when we're dealing with chronic pain or chemical sensitivities or chronic fatigue syndrome, the brain has actually maladapted to a chronic stress response. And because of the traumatic injury, and because the injury for people with chemical sensitivity, because the injury for people who have chemical sensitivities is chemically induced, our brain, in a self-protective mechanism, warns us when anything remotely similar is coming our way. And because of that innate fear that we have, because that's how we were injured to begin with, the brain knows that. It tells you when to expect it. It tells you when it's coming. And it also, because of the injury and because we don't want to re-injure ourselves, we focus on it a lot. We can detect things with our sense of smell that normal people cannot detect because of the cross-wiring in the limbic system that happens as a result of trauma. Is that all making sense? A unanimous nod from the audience? Excellent. So, what happens is we start to look at the world through our sense of smell. Unconsciously, in a self-protective mechanism. So the area that's responsible for smell in our brain is all of a sudden, or not so all of a sudden, is taking up a huge amount of real estate in our brain. Because what we focus on, we can increase the size of. So does anybody know what a homunculus is? It's actually it's like a little map that shows the brain and sensory information and how that's allocated in the brain. Touch is a big one because we have lots of sensory receptors. Smell is also fairly large because it's one of our innate old senses that we detect right away. It's in our limbic system in the reptilian brain. But you can imagine how big that real estate is in your brain if you have chemical sensitivities. How much area do you think your sense of smell is actually taking up? Any guesses?
Twice as much as before.
Twice as much as before, probably. I mean, I don't know what that is, really. But I would imagine it would be at least twice as much as before because we lead with our nose. Because that's how we're living our life, through our sense of smell. And not because that's a bad thing, it's what protects us. It's unconsciously what protects us from further injury. That's what we've been led to believe, for sure. And that's what our body's been telling us. So yes, neuroplasticity can be a wonderful thing, and we can harness the brain's ability to change and heal in a way that serves us. So we can actually learn how to self-direct neuroplastic changes in the limbic system, which is nothing short of miraculous. Gary, one of my clients from the workshop that I taught in January, Gary had he had very severe chemical sensitivities. And in fact, Gary lived in his backyard for a year. Gary was very ingenious, though, very brilliant businessman. So he still operated his business out of a tent and out of his car. And he was able to use a computer and a cell phone. And that's how he got through life. He had a gorgeous home that he couldn't live in. So he attended the workshop. And let me tell you, he was skeptical. I wasn't sure if I was like, oh, this is going to be a tough egg to crack, right? Very straight thinker. He wanted the proof. So I said, you know what, suspend the proof for 3 days and just practice and let me know how it goes. At the end of 3 days, he said he was 80% improved. At the end of 1 month, he reported he is 99.9% improved. And every day he would send me a new message and say, wow, I just went into Canadian Tire. And it was amazing. I didn't have any reactions at all. Or I went to the store. Or how about I filled up my gas tank with gas? Or I was able to go to a friend's house. For other people, these might seem like really small things, but for people who are chronically ill, this is huge. This is life transforming. This means, yes, I get to live the life that I love. I get to have my old life back, except for this time, I get to live it with more awareness and environmental awareness, and boy, oh boy, am I ever grateful for everything. There's nothing like a sense of gratitude when you're given a second chance at life. So again, that's why my emphasis is on looking at the language that you use, watching carefully the words that you choose and the thoughts that you think and what you choose to entertain. Because as soon as you start to think something, your brain is looking for a pattern of recognition. And we're changing the pattern right now. So this is where psychology meets neuroscience. We're going to use the application of consciousness to act back on the brain and change brain structure and function. We're going to learn how to apply all kinds of mitts. And what I mean by that is, you remember Edward Taub constraint-induced therapy, where he would place a mitt on the hand that the person could still use? So if they were paralyzed on their right side, they would want to use their left hand, and he would put a mitt on that left hand so they couldn't use it. So they were forced to use the right side, their so-called paralyzed side. I'm going to teach you how to wear that mitt in a lot of different ways so that you can retrain your brain to work in a different way. And by retraining your limbic system to function in a different way, your physiology will also change. So again, this is where psychology meets neuroscience. Through conscious awareness of our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors, and adding somatics to that, we can actually act back on the brain and change brain structure and function. So this, really, this isn't actually that new in terms of information. We know that through meditation, we can act back on the brain and change the frontal cortex. But this is new information as it relates to the limbic system, that there is a specific way, not through meditation, but there is a specific way through the dynamic neural retraining system that we can act back on limbic system structure and function and change the way that our brain works. And in turn, it changes the way that our body behaves or exhibits as well. So, as a result of rewiring my brain, well, I guess the first thing would be is that I'm standing here in front of you. That's a huge, huge, huge accomplishment. Now I get to interact in my life in the ways that I love. I can join a choir if I want to. I can go out for dinner with my friends. I can go see a movie. I can do anything that I want to and go anywhere I want to. It's really like Cheryl Schultz, the Wobbler, and just being, so consumed with trying to balance. I was so consumed with just trying to survive. And now I get to channel all of that energy into thriving. And that's my wish for you too, is that you can channel all of that energy that you've been taking just to survive and get through another day into thriving in your life, so that you too can be a champion in your own life, that you too get to start over. It really is like getting a chance to live life again. And most of all, I guess what those pictures say, for me, being able to go visit my mom again, it was huge, really huge. And I think that was probably, for me, the defining moment. It was like, yes, I have conquered this. Yes, I have conquered this. And I remember going to visit her for the first time and being in her dining room, and it was just me and her eating dinner or having a cup of tea, and I would just burst into tears. And she would say, "What's wrong?" I said, "I'm just so happy. I'm just so happy to actually be here, to be in your presence, to be in your house, to be able to see you in person. I'm just so happy, Mom. I'm just so happy." So I cried at the most interesting times, like when I went with my friend Diana to see, it was a musical production at Christmas. I can't remember the name of it now, but it was in Massey Hall in Toronto, and there were thousands of people. It was the Messiah, right? It's the sing-along Messiah. And there are thousands of people there, and it's really cold in Toronto in the winter. And we're all huddled outside, and then we go inside and start taking off layers of clothing and, you know, getting a nice hot drink and coming back to the seats. And I was just so in awe of the ability to be somewhere and to do something that I love and to be with someone that I love. And before the concert started, it was just silent, right? Everybody stops and it's just silence. And then you can hear the violin slowly starting to come in. And I'm bawling. And Diana just hugs me because she knows what it means to me. She knows what it means to live a life of liberation. And for me to be able to enjoy this and to be with her, it truly was like a miracle. It was like living a nightmare, and all of a sudden I woke up from the nightmare. And I was able to enjoy the things that I love in my life again. And why? Because of neuroplasticity. Because my brain healed, and I no longer had to live my life in survival. But I could live my life enjoying life again and being with the people that I love and going to see my mom, going to see a play, doing whatever I wanted to do. And what an amazing feeling of being liberated, absolutely liberated. And this can happen for you too. Absolutely, this can happen for you too. This is me on my victory flight. I'm looking pretty happy. Yay, I can do it, right? I can do this. And it was just so amazing. I'm like, wow, I can really do this. This means that I can travel. This means that I can do what I'm meant to do here on this planet, which is to travel to you, so that I can teach you how to get better. So that can be you the next time you see this picture. Here is me. And this is me, you know, thinking, what are all the things that I want to do, you know? And I remember when I was sick, I thought, there are so many things that I still want to do with my life. And I don't know why, but I wanted to go to Disneyland, right? I'm like, I've just never, ever been. I never went as a kid. And I thought, I really want to go to Disneyland. And so I went to Disneyland. And I remember back to a time thinking, just thinking, wishing, you know, oh, I can't wait to the day when I am comfortable in a space with thousands of people. And that was that defining moment. There I am with thousands of people having a great time. Nobody else knows anything about my story there, but I am happier than happy can get. I'm doing what I love and I'm being around people. And this is what I do now. This is what we do full time. Meaning we, my partner and I, James, I'm up here, but he's the hard work that goes into this. So this is what we've both dedicated our lives to, is to traveling around to places to teach this transformational learning to other people so that they too can retrain their brain and reclaim their life as a result. The results of the training are nothing short of miraculous. In fact, you saw someone here this morning talk to you. And that was a person who wore a respirator for 4 years. And for the first time in 4 years, last week, he did not have to wear his respirator. And he could go outside, and he could take a walk down his street, and he could go shopping, and he could go to the bank. And even people who knew who he was could not get over the fact that he wasn't wearing his respirator anymore. They're shocked at what a difference it makes. Because he was able to change his limbic system, he no longer has to wear that. Isn't that amazing? Freedom, absolute freedom. So I want you to leave your ego at the door and really be open to new ideas. Whatever expert opinion you think you thought you had before you came here, or you still have it, I just want you to suspend it for the time that you're here and be very, very open to new ideas, because this is a completely new paradigm in treating chronic illness and understanding how some forms of chronic illness are actually impaired limbic system illnesses, or are as the result of impaired limbic system.